Comes down to one thing. Your number one target on this team is old man Kelce at 34 years old. What does it mean this season in 2024 for Travis? Coming up today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. That's going to get you $20 off of your first ticket purchase. It's right off the top. Terms do apply, but check it out. We got to talk tight ends. And a lot of you might say, hey, why aren't we discussing these guys? Because, Travis is Travis, Hall of Famer, number one. Arguably the GOAT. I mean, if I'm doing a Mount Rushmore of tight ends, he's clearly on it. He might be the first dude. But we got to go through what it means in 2024 for him and everyone else who plays his position, or honestly, a couple that are similar to it. We're going to lock it down for you. If you don't know us, we've run this show for 8 years, been covering this team for years beyond that. I'm going on year 13. This is my partner, Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. He's going to break it all down for you on that Substack. I'm over at rogueapc.com, where I do the athletic matrix and get you ready for the draft every year, as well as pro personnel. And then we have NFL33.com and RGR Football. Those are my other outlets. Check them out when you have time. Thanks for being with us here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day on every platform, starting here on YouTube, where you can like and sub, and we would very much appreciate that. You everydayers already do that stuff, but you can also go out to Apple Podcasts, to Spotify, and get on the audio side as well. We appreciate all those subscriptions. The everydayers are here on every platform every day all the time, and we love you for it. You can get that much more at the text line at 816-357-8781. Now, we have to talk about some of the crazy depth here. There's a lot of new at the tight end position and guys that can play pseudo tight end positions. We'll talk about them coming up later. Who are the top three on the field? It appears straightforward, but it's about the roles, right? And we start, as we always should, with Mr. Personality himself. All right now, Travis Kelce. He's not only the best tight end on this roster, best tight end possibly of all time. He's still the guy that the offense has to be designed around. He is pass catcher one. And I like the way that you put that on the title breakdown for us today, Chris, because it's not about tight end versus wide receiver. And yes, he'll line up as wide receiver quite a lot, but it's pass catcher one. And as much as we've talked about the deep game, the new wide receivers, all the speed, it all comes down to functioning within an offense that is designed to go to Travis Kelce. Do you see anything about that changing at all?
Honestly, I hope it changes it a little bit. And I'm not saying I want them to take Kelce out of the game plan. That's not my point. My point is, we've been talking for years. They need to get it to where Kelce can take less snaps. I'm hoping that the addition of Jared Wiley, which we'll talk about in the next segment, will help with that. But I'm also hoping that you add a guy like Rashee Rice last year. You add a guy like Hollywood Brown this year. You add another guy like Xavier Worthy this year. Maybe that can take some of the pressure off of Kelce to perform to where he's not having to be the guy all the time. So I agree with you. I think the offense still has to go through him. He still needs to be probably the focal point for the most part, but I would hope that at times he doesn't have to be that focal point because you have other guys that can step in and be that guy like Hollywood Brown or like Rashee Rice or, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. And we've spent so much time this offseason talking about stretching the field and the speed aspect that's coming back with these speed wide receivers and having the deep ball back. But as I've mentioned it a few times throughout the offseason, I think it bears repeating and honestly emphasizing here. The biggest recipient, the biggest improvement from all of that being able to go downfield more is the space and the solitude that should be coming Travis Kelce's way. It doesn't mean that it's always going to happen. There are teams that understand that if you get on them, it's still going to be an advantageous thing, at least for the first couple of seconds of the pass play. But if you have teams stuck in cover four or playing, cloud-based coverage that is already so backed off because of the speed elements on the roster, that it opens up, Travis just has to beat a safety. Most likely teams are still going to come with the DB. Some might try linebackers, which I still feel, despite talking heads around the league saying Travis, he's 34, he's getting really old. Yes, he is chronologically old, but I don't think we're seeing a precipitous drop-off. Is he declining a little bit? Sure. But I don't think it's fallen off of a cliff. So if a team wants to put a linebacker on him, I am all for it. I will take that matchup all day long twice on Sundays.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I want to point out really quick, I was looking this up as you were talking about Kelce. Last year, so if we go back to 2020, one of the Chiefs' best offenses in 2020. His average per reception, his yards per reception was 13.5. Last year, it was 10.6. Now, is some of that the injury? Yeah, absolutely. But the previous years before that were both 12.2. I do think that when you start looking and you start going back and seeing what they had in 2020 compared to what they had last year, the lack of deep, the ability to challenge on the field deep cost Kelce yardage in different ways. And I think that's also part of what is playing into things. So you bring back the deep ball, it's going to open it up. And I know it doesn't sound like a ton, but when you're talking about the number of catches he had, which was 93, and to be clear about this, here's a great example. He had 92 catches in 2021 at 12.2 yards per catch, 1,125 yards. 93 catches in 2023 at 10.6, he was at 984 yards. So it doesn't seem like a huge deal, except for when you take into account he's getting 90 catches a season. It adds up, and it adds up in a big way.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that's the difference. By backing off the secondary, particularly two high safeties, which I do feel the Chiefs are going to force more double high safety looks, whether it's actually in true cloud coverage or six or whatever the shell they're going to play. I do think they're going to force teams to stay in too high, opening up the box and quite frankly, backing off the whole middle of the field. So Travis will have more depth to work at. So I think he can still accomplish it in the same 90 receptions, right? I think he'll easily break 1,000 yards this season. My question is, I don't want to have to see him have to play the same volume of snaps to get those 90 receptions. So that's the key, I think, to protecting Travis Kelce here. If you can make his snaps more quality by using the depth and the speed threat, I think that seals the deal. But you got to augment him. And how do you augment Travis Kelce? He's one of a kind. It's very, very difficult. There are a couple of options, and we know him pretty well. The real question mark is Jared Wiley and what his role is. We're going to hit that coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and much, much more. Whether you're into speed or power or even style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not your cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Check out Locked On Sports today for your 24/7 feed of local experts on all of their teams, not people shouting at you to try to make some kind of crazy point on ESPN or CBS. We're here on the YouTube platform where you can like and subscribe to Locked On Sports today or over on Amazon Fire TV. Now, there's been a lot of hubbub about the departure of Jody Fortson, the rookie Wiley coming in. I venture a guess the top three on the field we know pretty well. And there's going to be more depth, but I think the top three is the key because I expect that they're going to have to supplement with some 13 personnel, maybe more this season than they did last when they were still one of the top 5 teams that used 13 personnel. The difference to me here is I do feel you have a lot more question. With Jody Fortson on the field, you knew he was basically going to run a pass route. He wasn't going to be an option to lead a tunnel screen or come down and try to dig out a linebacker on some run play. You're going to be throwing the ball in 13 personnel with Noah Gray and Jared Wiley joining Travis Kelce on the field. I think that makes it actually more palatable and more sustainable to use that personnel package. How do you feel?
Yeah, I do think that you're going to be looking at situations where you can get Wiley on the field more. You can get a guy like Noah Gray on the field more as well, just because you're using more of the two tight ends setup. And with the guys that you're going to have that you can run at wide receiver in both Hollywood Brown and Worthy, you can have two tight ends on the field. You can have that kind of speed on the field at the same time and really challenge defenses both vertically and horizontally because of all the speed that you have on the field, plus those two tight ends. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I was looking because I wanted to talk about this last segment about Kelce. 726 pass snaps last year, down 50 from the previous year, down almost 100 from 2021. My whole point in that conversation is you're looking at them trying to take Kelce off the field a little bit more in passing snaps. I think that trend continues, and that's where you're going to see a guy like Jared Wiley step in and be able to take some of those snaps. Is he going to be Travis Kelce? No, but Travis Kelce is going to help him get ready. Travis Kelce is going to help him be ready for game day, and I do think that he's going to be able to step on the field and be effective early on.
Yeah, I do as well. And I think when you look at it, there's a verticality to his game that I don't think Noah Gray has. In terms of getting downfield 4.62, Wiley ran at the combine, very similar to Travis's timed effort at his combine back in the day. Not trying to make a direct comparison, but a little bit more. Jody Fortson was a little bit quicker than both of them. So in terms of speed, you are taking a step back there. But he's got a 37-inch vertical as well. And so there is that kind of like all-aroundness to his game. Whereas I think Noah Gray is a great two tight end. He's not a field stretcher. You're not going to use him on the vertical overs. You're not going to run four verts with him and be very successful. He's got to do other things. Whereas I do feel Wiley is much more like Travis in terms of the routes that he can run effectively. And that's what makes the difference. Nobody can be Travis Kelce. But if you can do some of the things that he can do and put yourself in a position to play opposite him where everybody's staring at him, I think Wiley's the guy who may be the key to getting more production out of the position group, not just out of the leader at the position.
No, I agree. And I think the curious thing that I'm really excited to see this season is where does Wiley stack up when it comes to the off-script stuff? Because when you look back at Noah Gray, his freshman year or his first year in the league, he didn't play a ton. He played a little bit more, going on the next couple of seasons, and he got more acclimated to the offense, and he started getting to a point where you saw him, even if he wasn't really targeted, he was at least flowing with Mahomes when Mahomes was breaking the pocket and trying to do Mahomes things. I'm not saying that Wiley can step in and be what I think Gray has grown into his first year, but it's important to see the progression. Maybe he starts to where you get him on the field and you see a pass play breakdown and Wiley isn't necessarily going right when it happens, but he recognizes it and gets there. That is important for him to pick up year one, because if he learns that year one and he gets that ingrained to him year one, year 2, 3, 4, and however long he's in Kansas City are going to pay even more exponential dividends, because you're going to be having him doing the same type of thing that Travis Kelce is doing, because he has a lot of the same thought process Travis does. They both play quarterback in high school and college, so there is a lot of similarities there. And I think that's a huge key, because if you go back to last year, there was a specific play, and I wish I could remember the game it was, but Noah Gray came open late when Mahomes was running, I believe to his right, and picked up a huge first down for Kansas City that's, I think, helped seal a game at that point. But it was just nice to see somebody else doing what Kelce does at the same position. And now you have to start seeing that from Wiley, you would hope, in year one.
Yeah, it was that leaping catch, if I remember correctly.
Yep,
I think you nailed why it needs to be something that we visualize with Wiley. Because Wiley's played for 6 offenses, 6 coordinators in 6 years, he leans on his quarterback background, I think, more than Travis has ever had to. We've all seen the videos and the games where Travis just kind of takes over and tells Pat where stuff's going on, because he can see it from a different perspective. I think the communication there between Wiley and Mahomes has to be something that grows there too. What do you got?
No, I'm laughing because I just remember times Travis is pointing the receiver for Mahomes to throw to. Kelce opens up and he's like, "No, don't go to me. Go over there." Right.
And that's the key. The cool thing about Wiley's quarterback experience and having played so many different offenses, whether they're wrinkles of each other or not, is that the recognition factor should be there. Maybe not pre-snap, but like you said, to be able to react to the play, especially when they have deep coverage over the top, taking away the speed guys, and somebody does actually manage to take Travis away. He has to be the relief valve. That's something that Noah Gray's been excellent at, and I think he still will be. In my mind, Noah Gray is still the 2 on this tight end group.
Yeah, and I could see that. The one thing I would argue, and then one thing that I think is going to be a big key for Wiley in his development long term, is if you look at his body compared to Noah Gray, and you look at him compared to Travis Kelce, he's bigger than Kelce a little bit. But my point in saying that is, if he's single covered, if it's a linebacker or a CB, he's still pretty much open, just like Travis Kelce is, mainly because of his body size and his ability to play above his body. That is a huge deal, and that could play huge dividends for the Chiefs in the next several seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as much as I do think Noah will be the second option, eventually that will evolve and change. But I think that to start the season there, you have to have wrinkles in order to get Wiley on the field. I think that will come. You also have to have wrinkles in the offense to use other players that have different skill sets despite these 3 guys. What does Irv Smith do? That's coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you check out Locked On Sports today. Make sure you sub over at Chiefs Corner and at NFL 33, and might as well get on RGR Football as well. You can do it all, and you'll get all that information on top of our text line at 816-357-8781. I think the most intriguing thing here is, as we talked about, there's 3 main guys, but there's always an ability to throw something else in there. Could this team keep 4 tight ends? I think it's a definite possibility. Irv Smith has a different skill set. Bit of a smaller guy, also a good athlete, just hasn't been able to put it together in the offense he's been. I like him best as kind of an attached H off the line of scrimmage, that you can run some arrow routes, run some like running back type aerial movements with him that I think he could excel at in this offense, given all the attention to everyone that we've talked about already. What do you see Irv Smith's role or his possibility at making the roster?
This is going to sound like a broken record, but it all comes down to special teams in my mind, because the reality is if they're going to keep 4 tight ends, Irv Smith has to be a guy that can play special teams. He has to be a guy that can do something on one of the units. I don't know if it's punt coverage, punt, or punt, or if it's punt return, or if it's kickoff return or whatever, but he has to be able to play special teams. And if he has the ability to play special teams and he can step in and do that role, then you can start talking about what he can do on offense. There's no doubt in my mind the top 3 that we already talked about are going to be on this roster, and Irv Smith isn't going to push any of them off. Wiley, they just drafted, and I think they love the kid. From what we've seen in mini camp and from what we've heard in OTAs, he's going to be great. And he's got a lot of expectations, which is lofty expectations, which is something that we probably ought to tamper down a little bit. But Noah Gray's not going anywhere either. I mean, he's ingrained into this offense, and they know what they have in Noah. And I think he, as you said, brings a different tight end perspective to the Chiefs tight end room. So when you start talking about Irv Smith, is okay, if he can make special teams, then you can talk about what he can do on the field. Because the other part of him making the team is not only can he play special teams, but is he going to be active on game day? You only have 48 spots active on game day when it comes to the tight end room, I believe. Maybe. So at that point, it's a question, okay, well, if he makes the roster, is he going to be active? Not if he can't play special teams. So when he comes to the offense, it's, what can you do with him that's going to be different? Or can you use him in a different way to maybe change how you're looking on offense at different times? And I think you can. But again, the big question is he going to make the roster because of special teams? Because if he does that, then you start getting into the conversation of, okay, what can we do with Irv Smith that would maybe give us a chance to give Travis Kelce even a break? Because maybe, you put in Wiley as a Travis Kelce type role, and Irv Smith comes in and is your number 2, and you have Noah Gray out as well. So that gives your top 2 tight ends a little bit of a rest for a couple of snaps.
I think you're absolutely right. And I will say this too. Irv Smith is, again, a smaller guy that I think can play the H, but he's also like linebacker size. We talked about the need for linebackers in the new kickoff.
That's huge.
So that could carry over here too. Whereas the guy, Gay things I don't think is going to be present. If I remember, he signed elsewhere. Garrett Prince, I I think I've seen enough. I'm not sure he's going to be a factor. I think the X factor at this position is Kupp. He also is a large body type, taller than Travis. I think he's taller than Wiley, to tell you the truth. I think he's over 6'6", I guess, as is Wiley now that I look at it. But it's difficult to project the same thing for him. He is actually the tallest on this roster, and he comes in at 243. I think he could be a guy that pushes towards that fourth spot if they have it. But I don't know if there's as much opportunity to play teams for him as there is for an Irv Smith. Or the other guy that I think, if you're talking about an H role that would be lumped in with the tight ends, I do think there's Carson Steele there. And I know we talked about him earlier with the running backs, but he is also a guy that can play that H role and can play the special teams. So I am starting to think that if it comes down to a decision about number of roster spots, that Irv Smith, maybe Kupp, maybe Steele, it's about who can play the teams, and maybe they don't have to line up always as a tight end. Maybe they're somewhere between the running back group and the tight end group.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you don't think that Kupp has a little bit of an advantage because he went to Texas Tech?
I mean, wasn't there at the same time, so let's not read too much into being a Red Raider just for being a Red Raider. But okay,
no, fair enough. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, the big question when you start getting into these guys is what are they going to be able to bring to other parts of the roster and to teams? And if Kupp is a guy that can show that he has the ability to move well enough, like a guy like Irv Smith can, and the other question, and you brought this up with the linebacker comparison, is Smith willing to go and be that guy and that type of guy going after guys tackling? It's different playing the tight end position than it is playing being used to doing that type of thing as a linebacker. So something to watch there. It's going to be very fun to watch this group and see what they're able to do. I cannot wait to see Jared Wiley. I know we're talking about depth, but I can't wait to see Wiley in this offense and training camp. But the big question is how are they going to use all of them? Irv Smith is going to be different than the rest of them. And, is Baylor Kupp going to get on the field? That's going to be the big question when we get into training camp and preseason games. Is he going to be playing?
I think I'm second. Like I'm excited to see Wiley, obviously, in the preseason. But I think the second person that I'm excited to see at the tight end position is Kupp, just because I don't have a good feel for what he was able to do. A little bit thin on his film in the draft season. So I'm looking forward to it. Who do you think makes this roster? Do they keep 4? Do they push? Who is right behind Noah Gray and Jared Wiley and Travis Kelce? We would love to know your opinion. Leave it in the comments here on YouTube. Leave it in the Spotify reviews, on the Apple Music reviews. We have come through a lot of reviews to this point, who the game changers are at every position, on down through the depth spots. We have another big position to go over, right? What else do you have?
I was just going to say, you mentioned this at the beginning of the show, I believe, that I have a salary cap thing that just came out. I've actually been covering all the positions. It will be completed by training camp. You can go back and look at every single position group and see what they're going to cost for the Chiefs salary cap, broken down by position. Go check that out on Chiefs Corner.
Yeah, absolutely, because it does play a factor in cut downs in how you do what. But I am actually thinking that the tight end group is one we're going to have to pay particular attention to because of the salary cap implications, depending on how many roles they play.
Well,
but
it's funny because
we do
the tight end group actually costs more than the entire wide receiver room. Just gonna throw
right.
That out there.
That's exactly what I was trying. I was trying to say that without saying that, but go to Chiefs Corner so you can see those implications. Obviously, we have not talked about the quarterback room, and there's maybe more to talk about than most years after we get past the GOAT and himself and everything that goes into that. We are coming at you with that in our next show. Make sure you are here, like, sub, and hit the bell. And then after that, we prepare for our 53-man prediction pre-camp. They're going to report on the 16th. So we're coming right up to it here. They're going to be rookies, they're going to be quarterbacks, and then the entire team on the 20th. So we have a little bit of time to wrap up any questions. If you have questions, get them in here at Locked On Chiefs on Twitter, at the comments here below, as we ramp up for what training camp is going to reveal, whether it's the tight end salaries or not. We'd love to have your comments, so make sure you leave them here. Make sure you check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network, because everybody's getting going. And the teams that you're worried about in the playoffs, they have shows that are spinning up right now as well. So make sure that you enjoy this weekend, that you take your time with your family, because it's going to get shorter as training camp opens very shortly, and we're going to be on the run, and we know you won't want to miss any of that. We'll have it for you every single day, plus breaking news, plus any additional from our remotes out at training camp as well. So hope you're excited. It's just about here again. The run for the three-peat is on. We appreciate you being with us. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you